A rather big feature for the PS5 is now apparently in the works, and it could be a massive win for game preservation. But let's break that all down up next. What's going on, guys? It's Kalo, and I'm here to give you the lowdown on all things gaming. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to this channel for weekly video game news content. Drop a like on the video, and welcome to the Level Up. As of late, there has been more conversations around this idea of game preservation, backwards compatibility, and the all-digital future in gaming. I think with all that being said, these are conversations that need to be had, because it would be pretty simple just to kind of leave the past in the past and just look forward. But in doing so, we lose hold of titles that are generational, especially in the way they've impacted the gaming world as we currently know it. And whether you're a fan of Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo, you have the desire to at least have the ability to go back and play these games released years ago. So, rumors are now coming up that PlayStation is currently working to remedy this by providing the PS5 the ability to emulate PS3 games. This is a big development in the world of PlayStation, mainly because the cell processor that was in the original PS3 was very difficult to work with, and that's to say the least. And one could argue that's exactly why Sony opted to not touch that console at all. While some could argue that the PS3 isn't the best generation within the lineage of Sony consoles, I could go out on a limb at the very least and say that the PS3 generation existed within this time frame where PlayStation really experimented with any and all kinds of ways to play games, and the levels in which they existed, whether that's a massive AAA game or smaller titles. So, simply by that metric alone, if PlayStation was indeed working on such a project, they would be opening Pandora's box, so to speak, and release a ton of creative titles out to the PlayStation public. And to kind of put this in perspective for those of you at home, there are titles, and I mean fairly big titles, you can only play on the PlayStation 3. Like Killzone, Infamous, and Metal Gear Solid 4. And that's by official means. So, rather long rant aside, this story started with Xbox era's Nick Baker and Giant Bomb's Jeff Grubb, where both claim that PlayStation is working on PS3 emulation on the PS5. But Nick Baker was first to the punch when he said, quote, "Sony is working on select PS3 backwards compatibility." Now, he didn't really specify what the whole select back compat really meant, and this can mean the whole library of games or just one. Now, this is where Jeff Grubb comes into all this, where he went on to claim on his podcast that, quote, "It's something I've heard has been in the works for quite some time. I thought it was going to get revealed earlier this year when I first heard about it, but that clearly didn't happen. That doesn't mean it will never happen. Maybe it does." Now, based off of those two quotes alone, this is more or less a case of where there's smoke, there's fire. And it's worth noting because these are all just rumors, this may not see the light of day, but hopefully it does. As for my 2 cents on this all, I can see this all going down much like PlayStation is currently handling older PS2 titles and PSP games. And by that I mean they might opt to release a handful of titles month to month. And this is all on their subscription service, PlayStation Plus, which is very likely. This basically means you won't be able to pop in your old PS3 discs and play them whenever you want, which I don't think is the worst. And it's really no secret Sony treats their older games as incentives to buy into PlayStation Plus, much like Xbox does with Game Pass. But unlike Xbox releasing all their games at one clip, PlayStation scatters them about to keep you coming back for more month to month. But it's also worth noting, more often than not, those same games are available on the regular PlayStation storefront, so if you were really dying to play a select game, you can just go there, buy the title, and play it whenever you want. Now, in closing, I think this is always a good thing to see that a company is apparently working to future-proof a console and allow the titles that existed on that console to live on forever. And someone out there adores the PS3 library, so this is very good news for you. But with all that being said, I'm going to pass it off to you guys. What PS3 games did you enjoy the most, and which ones do you want to see up first? For me, I love some Killzone, so sign me up for that. But that about does it here. I've been Kalo, I gave you the lowdown on all things gaming, and if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to this channel for weekly video game news content, drop a like on the video, and this has been the Level Up.